There's a reason why General Smedley Butler wrote in 1945, war is a racket. Because the truth is, traditional reasons, or throughout human history, the typical reasons of going to war are no longer necessary. We don't need to go to war for land. We can just build up. We don't need to go to war for resources. We have technology that we can have abundant resources for all. So what is the need for war now? Well, it's a racket. Money, power, greed. So really, you could argue that war is not even necessary in the 21st century at all. And yet here we are, concerns of nuclear war among us. And it really is a game of chicken, nuclear chicken. It really is a game of political corruption. Because the leaders like Victoria Nuland in the West know if they're exposed, they're going to be seen as the true war criminals. The Biden administration knows if people knew the truth, they would be seen as the one with blood on their hands. And then you have the Washington Post. So what happened to the left being anti-war, by the way? That changed. It just shows you how they're all brainwashed. Or how their real foundation is whatever conservatives are for, we're against it. So during the Bush years, they saw conservatives were pro-war. They got tricked with the 9/11 false flag. And so the liberals came out as anti-war. But now that the conservative side of the aisle is anti-war, now the liberals are pro-war. This is the Washington Post. Republicans used to back Ukraine, then came middle fingers in Alabama. Like, oh, those rednecks in Alabama don't like war. Well, okay, wouldn't that be a good thing? So the rednecks in Alabama have more common sense and general geopolitical knowledge than your average Ivy League liberal, huh? Nice. But that's funny. The middle fingers in Alabama. Stupid rednecks don't like war, says the limousine liberal. It's not about Ukraine. It's about war. It's about the military-industrial complex. And the Republican voters have woken up to the game. That's why the new Republican Party that's being forced into existence by the Republican voters, and it's more just common sense. It might not even be a geopolitical or a war thing. It's how is it we have hundreds of billions of dollars for Ukraine, and yet we can't secure the border, and yet the average American now lives paycheck to paycheck? That's just common sense stuff. You don't even need advanced geopolitical knowledge. You don't even need to understand or care about what's going on in Ukraine. That's basic common sense. That's basic, the need to exist and not have your life threatened. That's all that is. Liberals don't seem to get it, though. Isn't that funny? They never do. They all have their Ukraine flags in their bio. All the Democrats wear the Ukraine flag on their lapel pin. This is heavy stuff. There's no doubt about it. This is heavy stuff. But right there on the screen, that's the state capitol. That's the U.S. Congress. That's where the threats to our country exist. Not on the other side of the planet. Right there in Washington, D.C. And most of them occupy the Democrat Party and wear Ukraine flag lapel pins. They let you know. They let you know. Well, there's other wars that are now going on because of the weakness of the Biden administration. And that would be now in Israel and the Gaza Strip. And I think, I don't know the number of countries now that have made statements condemning the genocide in the Gaza Strip. But that number continues to rise as the deaths of Palestinians continue to rise as well. And you can't even have an honest conversation about that without people getting all defensive. And you can't even have a real conversation about that because nobody wants to address the origins of it on October 7th when the IDF stood down. So you can say, well, look, this is self-defense. This is a war. This is a reaction. Okay, well, even if you just pose it as a hypothetical, well, what if the IDF did stand down? What if Netanyahu wanted that to happen so that he could launch this and build the legacy of Israel conquering the Gaza Strip? Would you still support it then? Just a hypothetical. So this is some of the latest. More than 100 killed as Israeli forces open fire in chaos at Gaza food lines, Palestinian Health Ministry says. Now, look, I don't take anything at face value. So I can look on one side of the aisle and there's all the war propaganda from Israel. I can look at the other side of the aisle and there's all the war propaganda from Palestinians. But at some point, you compare and contrast the two, and your instincts start to take you in a certain situation. And really, the Israelis don't even hide it, folks. They don't hide it. The Israeli soldiers go and bomb the entire Gaza Strip, and then they make posts on social media laughing with the children's clothes and the children's toys and their little toy compartments and their toy chests, and they think it's funny. So it's I don't have to sit here and like have a conspiracy theory. Oh, look, the Israeli defense thinks it's funny they're killing kids. And they brag about it. They post about it. It's celebrated in Israel when they do this. There's other videos. Again, you can say it's propaganda. Well, okay, what about the beheaded kid story that then they admit never even happened? What about the images they put out? And then they admit it was AI. But yeah, there's videos where you have people in the Gaza Strip getting the food from the food line and then running back to shelter for their lives. Sometimes they don't make it. But here's the problem. It is the same thing. Whether I'm pro-Russia or anti-Russia, whether I'm pro-Israel or anti-Israel, I'm anti-war. I'm anti-death. It's all unnecessary. Iran greenlights massive Hezbollah attack on Israel, Arabic report says. So, folks, every day that this assault in Gaza continues, every day it gets more dangerous. Not just for the people in the Gaza Strip, but for the people in Israel as well. It's the same story, whether it's Russia and Ukraine or Israel, Palestine. Every day the bloodshed continues, it exponentially gets more dangerous for everybody. No matter what your opinion is, no matter what side of the aisle you're on. Every day it gets more dangerous. And by the way, it never makes the news, but there's former top Israeli generals that talk and they say, this is psychotic what we're doing. We're asking for Iran to start a war with us. We're asking for the Arab nations in the Middle East to start wars with us. What are we doing? There are voices of common sense, but they don't get played, just like Colonel Douglas McGregor. His interviews get millions of views with Judge Napolitano and Natalie Brunell and other places that will actually hear from Colonel Douglas McGregor, but he doesn't get on the mainstream news, does he? Because he's anti-war. Same thing goes with the Israeli generals that are anti-war. It's amazing how the message of anti-war doesn't get on mainstream news. I guess they all have stock portfolios with the weapons contractors and manufacturers, don't they? I guess they're all bought and paid for by the war lobby and the war racket. So put aside your opinions. Pro-Russia, anti-Russia. Pro-Israel, anti-Israel. That every day these wars continue, every day there's more bloodshed, we get closer to larger wars, world wars, And exponentially, that threat of more bloodshed gets worse. Whether you're in Israel, whether you're in Ukraine, or anywhere else. And to not understand that and not want to put a stop to that is truly psychotic. Here's an interesting moment from a veteran talking about war in front of his city council in clip 6.
My name is Alan Shabaro. I was with 3rd Special Forces Group. I was with the Commanders in Extremis Force with B-23. I was a sniper, assaulter, and a breacher. I did 3 rotations, 2008, 2009, and 2007. I know war. What's going on in Palestine right now is not a war. It is the dehumanization, it's the genocide, it's the ethnic cleansing of a specific people to take their land. This is wrong, and there's nothing more American than speaking out against what's wrong. The U.S. taxpayer is paying for this, which makes it even more frustrating. This needs to stop. This needs to stop. Whatever you can do, anything, this needs to stop.
And again, this is a stance of common sense. This is a stance of anti-war. It's not pro or anti any nation, state, or people. But it gets spun that way. There's all these groups. And I mean, the truth is, it is the political left mostly. And they've always been, you can call it anti-Israel or pro-Palestinian, whatever you want. But no, the truth is you have all these groups, and they are leftists that, well, I shouldn't say groups, but there's restaurants or business fronts or whatever. It's in New York City, it's in Europe, and they put up signs on their storefront. They put up signs on their restaurant, and it just says ceasefire now. That's all it says. It just has a Palestinian flag and an Israeli flag, and it just says ceasefire now. And these Jewish groups go around and they take pictures of it and they say, look at this business, they're anti-Semitic. How is that anti-Semitic? That's a strange admission to claim that that's anti-Semitic to call for a ceasefire. Again, and there seems to be no effort to stop any of this. And all the voices that are trying to stop this get drowned out. The military-industrial complex just keeps winning. By the way, one of the guilty members, Lloyd Austin, had a hearing today, and I'm talking to Ivan Raiklin right now, and I'm going to get him to join us in about 15 minutes. He was at the hearing, and there were some powerful moments, so we're going to have an update from that. A couple other things here. German battleship in the Red Sea misidentifies U.S. drone, fires 2 missiles, both fail to reach the target. Why are U.S. drones getting misidentified? Something is going on here, folks. Something not right is going on here. Remember how they let that drone attack Jordan and they said, oh, we thought it was a U.S. drone. Now there's another drone they misidentify and they fire at it. What is going on? How is this happening? Somebody is trying to start these wars. Somebody is trying to instigate more bloodshed. How do you have, with the greatest technology on the planet, the most advanced war machines and communications on the planet, and we can't even identify drones? No, something else is going on here.